Welcome back to the Fantasy Football Fellas YouTube channel. My name is Cameron Lawrence, and we are back with our Week 8 buy lows and sell highs. And guys, we are getting to the time of the year where it's a little bit harder to find guys to buy low and sell high on. But nevertheless, we have 6 guys for you, 3 league winners, 3 guys that you need to get off your roster now. And yeah, let's go win some championships. So make sure to follow along for this entire video. But before we jump in, make sure to turn on those notifications, hit that subscribe button. You don't want to miss a single chance to better your team with 2 podcasts a week, 3 YouTube videos, and a ton of shorts coming your way every single week. But our first player is Mr. Austin Ekeler, who has been disappointing since returning from injury, and he was a little nicked up leaving their last game because his fantasy points have been 10.2 and 5.6, a combined 15.8. There was 10 guys this last week who did better than Ekeler has done in his first 2 games back. But there is still some encouraging signs to Austin Ekeler. It's not going to be all doom and gloom, but obviously, if he's only scoring 10.2 and 5.6, it's not been all great either. He's still seeing 14 carries a game. And he only had 4 times last year where he saw more than that, so he's seen decent volume for Austin Ekeler. He had 6 targets in game 1, which is what you want to see, which is what we expect at this point from Austin Ekeler. But then he only had 2 in his second game back, which I think is the anomaly here. I think Austin Ekeler is still a 6 target a game kind of guy, so I think that's the anomaly. But what's been different for Austin Ekeler is he's averaging 2.57 yards per carry. That is not something we see consistently from Ekeler. That's not something that we have seen. And his longest run since he was returned has been only 6 yards. Obviously, he's 28, obviously coming off an ankle injury. It's going to take him a little bit of time to get back. And he's still performing well. It's just he's just not getting the yards. He's still 4th in yards created per touch, 7th in running back target share, 6th in weighted opportunities. And the thing that I love most about Austin Ekeler is he has a phenomenal schedule coming up. Chicago this next week. Always a great matchup. Then he does see the Jets in Detroit, which are 2 good run defenses, but he finishes with Green Bay, Baltimore, New England, Denver, Vegas, Buffalo, and Denver again in the fantasy championship. If there is anybody that you want to have playing or be playing against in the fantasy championship, it is Denver. Austin Ekeler is going to rebound. Austin Ekeler takes fantasy football about as seriously as we do, and so he doesn't want to disappoint you. I do think that kind of plays into it a little bit, but at the same time, what we've seen from Ekeler over the years, we know that Kellen Moore likes to use running back in the passing game. You should be buying back in on Austin Ekeler. Our next sell high is Najee Harris, and yes, he is a repeat. And I'm going to be honest with you, all 3 of our sells are repeats from past videos. So just so you're aware of that and you don't go, hey, we've already seen this guy. It's because they are. And Najee, you finally had your big game, which was 15 fantasy points. His second double-digit game of the season. His first game all year with 3 receptions. His first touchdown all game. Or touchdown all season long. He's only had 1 game this season with over 14 carries. He had 14 carries in this one. And he is still averaging under 4 yards per carry on the season. We're looking at a guy who, if he doesn't score a touchdown, he is under double digits at pretty much every single week. He has no receiving upside. He's not getting enough volume to be purely a rushing back, and he doesn't have the efficiency to do it either. So unless you want to wait on Najee Harris to score maybe 4 more touchdowns this season, unless you're hoping that Najee Harris can somehow take over from Jaylen Warren, which isn't going to happen, you need to just move off of him. I'm not even saying like you should get a running back 2 here. You just got to get rid of Najee Harris. Get the best that you possibly can for him and move on. This goes for redraft and dynasty. We're going to buy low, though, on his teammate, Diontae Johnson, who is a target hog. He is still seeing a 27.3% target rate. And last week, he saw a 25% target share on only 66% of snaps. And yeah, he's going to be a full-time player. He's not playing 66% of snaps. It's just because he was coming off an injury. He has seen 24% of the air yard share in the 2 games that he's played, which is huge because last year we know his ADOT, we know his yards per catch was ridiculously low. That is not keeping up. That has not stayed the same this year. And Ty told you on the podcast, if you listened yesterday, that him and Pickens can coexist. They play different parts of the field. Pickens is going to be Farther down the field, Pickens is going to be more of a contested catch kind of guy, where Diontae Johnson is your route technician. Diontae Johnson gets open. Diontae Johnson can be your safety blanket, and that's exactly what he's going to be. Plus, Pat Freiermuth now, for both of these guys, is out for the next 3 weeks. It just opens up so much for Diontae Johnson. I still think he's the number one wide receiver in this offense. I think he is about as solid of a mid-tier wide receiver 2 as you can get. And we've seen it the last 2 years, 147 targets, 169 targets. The targets are going to continue to come. And I think the touchdowns are finally going to start to come. What we don't realize, because we see the 0 in the touchdown column last year, is he was 10th in red zone targets. They feed him in the red zone. He just had an unlucky year. 6 to 7 touchdowns is his average. Obviously, he might not hit that this year because of missing time. But we could see another 4 to 5 touchdowns coming for Diontae Johnson, which really elevates that fantasy status. And I think that you should be buying low on Diontae Johnson. Our next sell high, he really isn't a sell high. He is just a sell, and it's Brian Robinson. We have another Dameon Pierce situation. What Alexander Madison's turning into, what we've said about Najee Harris, is happening to Brian Robinson. It's these guys who aren't very explosive, who aren't really getting the job done, and have to be volume merchants, but aren't being volume merchants. Let me read you his snap count percentage, since week 3. 37%, 55%, 36%, 53%, 49%. And he's not even on the field for 50% of snaps in most of these games. The 2 games where he was under 50% were in blowout weeks. The 37 and 36% were games that he got blown out in. And that's not necessarily going to be a rare occurrence with the way that this Commanders team is playing. His carries over the stretch, 10, 14, 6, 10, and 8. He's not seeing 18 touches again. That's just not going to happen. He had 18 his first 2 games, but since then, he's not playing Arizona and Denver every week. And he only has over 2 receptions once. And in 2 of his games where he scored double-digit fantasy points, he broke a big reception. That's not something that's going to keep happening for Brian Robinson. That's not his game. That's not how they use him. I'm telling you to sell him for the same reason I told you back in week 2 to sell him. He's a volume merchant. I actually hate using that term. I don't want to say volume merchant, but he's a guy who needs volume in order to succeed. In order to be a great or a good fantasy player, he needs volume. And I would sell him right now because he plays Philly this week, and I'm not banking on scoring twice against Philly in 1 season. Our next buy low is another running back, and it is Josh Jacobs. I feel for you. I do. If you've had Josh Jacobs on your team, I really do. It's been a roller coaster of emotions, right? You started bad. You kind of, 27-19, and now we kind of come back down. But what you do have to be grateful for is that the volume has still been good for Josh Jacobs, averaging 17 carries a game, averaging 6 targets a game. Yet he's only finished in the top 10 once, or top 10 twice, and he's yet to average over 4 yards per carry in a game. One thing that I do think is hurting Josh Jacobs is Jimmy G not being in there. I know it's not hurting his volume necessarily, but it's just hurting this offense as a whole. We've seen it with Devontae Adams, who I also think is a buy low right now. But this team is just not moving the ball well, and when he does score touchdowns, he finishes in the top 10. He's a guy who's been right around that 10, 11-point game, which means if he finds the end zone, he's going to be 16 to 17 points, and I think that's something that's going to start coming. But the volume is what you want to see. Hopefully he picks up the efficiency. We knew that regression was coming for Josh Jacobs. That's something that I know I kind of preached all offseason, was that regression is going to come for Josh Jacobs. Obviously, we didn't think it was going to quite be like this. We were hoping that, hey, you know what? He would maybe go from a 1,600 rushing yard guy back to like 1,100. He's not even on pace to hit that right now. So hopefully he can pick it up a little bit. But Josh Jacobs is a guy that you need to buy low on right now. And final sell high is Adam Thielen. And I want to say I was wrong earlier on Adam Thielen. I told you to sell him. He's been the wide receiver 1 in points per game since week 2. He's been unbelievable. He's been on fire. But I only think you should sell him if you can sell him at the tippity top. If you're getting a running back or wide receiver 1 for him. That's the only reason you're selling. I'm not telling you to sell him for any wide receiver 2. You're selling him if maybe you have to give a little extra, but to get a running back or wide receiver 1 out of it. 20, 31, 15, 27, 28. That's his points per game, or points in each game since week 2. It's just ridiculous. And really, my only reason for skepticism is the fact that he's a 33-year-old wide receiver who looked like he had kind of lost a step last year. Obviously looks better this season, looks great this season. The targets have been ridiculous. He's on a not very good team. He needs to throw the ball a lot, and he's their only reliable player. So I think the targets are going to stay. I think that he's going to continue to produce. If he stays healthy, he's a top 12 guy rest of the season. He is, just based on the volume that he's going to receive. However, if you could trade him for a Puka, Keenan Allen, CeeDee Lamb, Chris Olave, or Devontae Adams, I would go do that right now because I'm going to bet on them recovering, getting back on track a little bit more than I'm going to bet on a 33-year-old Adam Thielen to keep it up at this level rest of the season. But like I said, Adam Thielen is different than the other two. Najee Harris, Brian Robinson, those guys are just sells. Just get what you can from them. Adam Thielen, you are only selling if you're getting a running back or wide receiver 1 for. Alrighty, guys, that wraps up our buy low, sell high. A little quicker video today. I wanted to get it to you as fast as we could because, let's be honest, you don't want to hear me ramble. You just want to know the facts. You want to get in. You want to get out. But thank you again for joining. We got the podcast coming tomorrow. We got Lucas to Start Sits coming on Friday. We got shorts coming every single day of the week, except for Sunday, because that's your football day. And then Ty is right back again to start with waiver wires next week. So make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you turn on notifications so you don't miss a single video. But that wraps it up for me, and I will see you tomorrow. Deuces.